Joseph was prime minister of all of Egypt. What language did he speak? He spoke Egyptian, of course. Moses was their chief army commander. What language did he speak? He spoke Egyptian. So this should really say Egyptian words in Semitic. It's the other way around. It was the Israelites were borrowing, because they spoke Egyptian, they were borrowing Egyptian words. And so much so, well, here's the other ones. We've got Budge, which is hieroglyphic dictionary, part 1, part 2. And I mean, it's absolutely full of hieroglyphics. But as you look through this, you'll find that, like 20% of them are Hebrew, or, they have a Hebrew equivalent. And so I went, in one of my books, I made my own dictionary pointing out the similarities between Hebrew and Egyptian. And then went back to the Old Testament for the first, few chapters. No, not even chapters. The first, 50 pages or so. And took it back into the Egyptian. Because if Hebrew is Egyptian, then those Hebrew words you can take back into the Egyptian and see what the Egyptian translation will be. And sometimes it was slightly different. And so you come up with a similar story, but slightly different. Which was interesting. It's worth having a read. It's in my book, Eden in Egypt.
Yeah, we'll leave it.
So, yes, we have all of these links between Hebrew and Egyptian.
It's unbelievable the depth of research you've done into these things. I see some nonsense comments. Then you're right here creating your own dictionary, going through these languages. It's unreal.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a big dictionary. It's got about 400 words in it or something. There is a significant similarity between these two languages. And therefore, Arabic, again, is a daughter language of Hebrew. So Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic are all Egyptian. They even sound like it. If you hear Hebrew being spoken, it has that guttural sort of sound of ancient Egyptian. They even sort of sound the same as well. So I think ancient Egyptian has survived. I mean that's fairly logical, isn't it? I mean, you listen to English. Half of English is Latin. So although nobody speaks Latin anymore, it survived. It survived within English. If you look at English, it's like 1/3 Latin, 1/3 Dutch, and 1/3 Norman French. Norman French is Latin anyway. So those are the main influences. And then, of course, we've got a smattering because we've picked up maybe 10% of Greek and 10% of Hebrew. Because remember, the Bible was hugely influential. And so within English, we pick up Hebrew words as well. So, all these languages together, you meld them together, and we end up with English. It's like when I was saying that Arthurian legend was mostly written in Aramaic. And people say, no, it's Welsh, it's Welsh. And you think, well, yes, but what's the most popular name in Wales? It's Davy Jones, which is Aramaic. David is Aramaic, Jones is Aramaic. These two Aramaic words are the most popular name in the whole of Wales. So, you can see the links. Yeah. And Welsh is like that as well. I mean, I really know very little Welsh, but for Arthurian legend, I had to look up a few Welsh words. And every word I looked up was Latin.
I see.
Okay, so the Welsh have picked up a load of Latin as well. None of these languages are just monolithic creations from nothing. They've all borrowed, of course, as you might expect. And so here we have the Amana family. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I just had a quick question. This seems to be one of the misunderstandings that people have, is that when you're looking at sort of ancient Egyptian and it's a hieroglyphic language, there's always going to be multiple interpretations of sort of each word or of each picture. How much does that get in the way of your research and of people's maybe pushback towards it? Because it's maybe just a different opinion on the same picture or symbol of this hieroglyphic language.
It depends whether it's an obvious mistranslation. I mean, if you go through the Old Testament, even the New Testament, there are obvious references to the zodiac. But when it's being translated into English, you will never see that it's translated as being the zodiac. They always translate it as something else. Because having the zodiac in the biblical story was, especially during the Victorian era or before, was not really acceptable. So they translated it in a different fashion. But when it's so obvious that they're talking about the zodiac, it must be a mistranslation. The same happens in Egyptian because, the translators have a viewpoint and that's what comes out in their translation. They don't necessarily know that the Hyksos were the Israelites, and therefore they're not going to mention Israelites. Similarities between the Hyksos and the Israelite Exodus, and so that can create mistranslations. So it really needs a slightly different viewpoint sometimes to understand that, they were talking about cosmic and stellar events and so on, things of that nature. Not necessarily humble artisan or agricultural topics. They were talking about the heavens above, like we've been talking about when we were talking about Gilgamesh. How did they not see that Gilgamesh was Orion? When it's so obvious from the text that that is what they were talking about, that they're not talking about a king. Well, there may have been a king because all the kings were incarnations of the gods, of course. But the text of Gilgamesh is obviously talking about Orion killing the bull of heaven in the heavens above. But unless your translator knows that Orion is sitting next to Taurus in the night sky, they're not going to translate it in that fashion. So we're down to the skills of the translators. That, they're only as good as the knowledge they have. So you do get mistranslations. This is the Amana family. We're not going to go through this in any detail because we've done it in the previous talk. Just pointing out that they were the naked lovebirds in the Garden of Eden. Their god was called the Aten or the Eton. We'll see this in a minute when we go through the hieroglyphs. So on the left we've got Akhenaten, and he's naked in the Garden of Eden. The middle one is Nefertiti, Queen of Egypt, naked in the garden, and depicted naked wherever this statue was set up, somewhere in Amana, depicted as being naked in the Garden of Eden. And then the third one is one of the daughters, we don't know who, maybe even Queen Scota, and Kissenem, we don't know. But anyway, she's portrayed as nearly naked. She's got a diaphanous robe on that leaves nothing to the imagination. So this was the naked family in the Garden of Eden, which is why one of the reasons why I connected them with Adam and Eve, who were also the naked lovebirds in the Garden of Eden. This is Akhenaten with its strange features. We've been through that before.
Yeah, this androgynous look. Yeah.
Yes. The alien grey. Yes, with his almond eyes, his triangular face and everything else. Yeah, all very interesting. This his cartouches, since we're talking about Egyptian hieroglyphs. So this is Akhenaten. The god name always comes last, we think. So we start in the middle. This is this sieve is a k. So K-N, and then It-N. So this is the god name on the left side, the Aten, which is the Aten. It's normally pronounced as the Aten, but in truth, this Greek glyph is more like an E sometimes, or perhaps even an I. So you could say Eton or Eton. Not necessarily, it's not a hard A. There are different characters for that. So it's Akhenaten, maybe, from the Garden of Eden. And sometimes they use a D here as well. So sometimes it's Eden instead of Eton. There are two spellings to the Aten. And then these are some of the other names. Each pharaoh had at least 5 names. So this is some of the other ones. We've got Kepa. Kepa is the beetle, the sun beetle. So Neferkepa-Ra. This is the Nefer glyph, as in Nefertiti. Neferkepa-Ra. Again, the god name comes last. And then we've got, what's this one? This is the N, the water glyph is N. Ui, N, and then Ra. Ra being obviously the sun god. So that's the cartouches of Akhenaten. But I think that the king who was kicked out of Egypt was actually Pharaoh I. And this is I, and he was the pharaoh after Tutankhamun. And we'll look at his genealogy in a minute. Here he's officiating at the death of Tutankhamun. So Tutankhamun's on the left, he's been chopped out of this image here. That duty is normally the next pharaoh to officiate at the death of the previous pharaoh. It's normally the son is officiating at the death of the last pharaoh. Here, it's I, and I think he's doing that because he was the father of Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun is of unknown ancestry. It's debated. So I've got I as over here, A-Y-E, this is Pharaoh I. I have them, none of this is fixed in stone. There are many interpretations of this. So I've got them as being the son of Yuya and Tuyu. Now these are very famous, very influential administrators within the Amarna regime. They were the progenitors, in fact, of the Amarna regime, was Yuya and Tuyu. And they're I think I've got an image of it later. Their mummies are in the Cairo Museum, so we actually have their burials. And their children were I and Tia, who was the wife of Amenhotep III, from whom we get Amenhotep IV, who is Akhenaten. So one of their daughters was the mother of Akhenaten. Now for Nefertiti, I've put her down as a daughter of I, because she's closely related, but not a sister of Akhenaten. So I've given Nefertiti as being a daughter of I. And here she is, this is Nefertiti. And the daughters of, because Akhenaten only had 6 daughters, no sons, which is a good reason to suspect that Tutankhamun was not a son of Akhenaten, despite what Zahi Hawass likes to say. It's highly unlikely that Tutankhamun was a son of Akhenaten, otherwise he would have acknowledged that. He never acknowledged Tutankhamun as being his son, or any sons whatsoever. So these are the daughters of Akhenaten, and we've got all their names here. Meritaten, Meketaten, and the one we're looking for here really is Ankhesenamun, as she's known in the classical books. But her name, of course, originally was Ankhesenamun, because the god name she was using would have been the Aten. Now, when she married Tutankhamun, she had to change her name because the Aten had been proscribed at that point, being deleted from history, and so she changed her name to Ankhesenamun, using the god Amun name. And this, I think, is Skota.
Google Play, mission accepted. I have always been a story-driven single-player gamer, but it's time for me to embark on a new adventure with Google Play Points, their loyalty program. Just like training for a big mission, Google Play Points can help you be a part of something even bigger.
And she had a complicated life. She married Smenkara. Smenkara was probably her uncle. Then she married Tutankhamun, who was also her uncle. And then she married Ai, who would have been her great uncle. Oh, before that, I think she married her father as well. She married Akhenaten as well. So, yeah, a complex marriage life.
Yes, simply family dynamics there, doesn't it?
Yeah. They like to keep it in the family.
That's it. These ginger dynasties.
Yeah, keeps the dynasty nice and tight, keeps the money and the power and the influence in the dynasty. That's what they were all doing. That's what we've been seeing in the New Testament when we were looking at that as well. So the two protagonists in this story, I think, are Ankhesenamun and Ai, when she married Ai. So obviously she married Tutankhamun. She is the lady on the back of the chair when you see Tutankhamun and his wife on the back of the royal throne. That's her, that's Ankhesenamun. Tutankhamun died early, of course, after only a few years. And I came running back to marry Ankhesenamun because he wanted to change the administration back to the Aten again. So what happened is we had the Aten, we had Akhenaten and the Amarna dynasty controlling Egypt, with the god being the Aten, all of the old gods of Egypt being cut out from all of the temples being closed down, persecution of all of the old priests, changing the whole religious aspect of Egypt completely to the Aten, the first monotheism that we really know of. And then Akhenaten fell foul of the regime. He was kicked out. That's why I think that Akhenaten went on an exodus rather than just being killed, because there's no evidence for his death in Amarna. I don't believe KB55, for instance, is Akhenaten. I think he was pushed out on an exodus. And they went back to the old ways. They opened the temples again. They venerated the old gods again under Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun was obviously an Atenist, but he was only a kid, so he was forced into the old religion and the old ways. And that's why Ankhesenaten had to change her name to Ankhesenamun. And so we had a number of years of Tutankhamun, not very many years, and he died early. And then I came running back in again to change it all back to the Aten once more, to go back to the same regime as Akhenaten, because he was intimately linked to that family. He was their what did they call him? He was the chief spy master. He was called something like the eyes in every room or something, you know. He was
Right.
he was the secret police. He was the army commander, all that sort of stuff, you know. So he was very closely linked to this dynasty. During the time of Tutankhamun, when they went back to the old ways. I think I went to Greece. And this is why we have the story of Danos going to Argos. Danos has the same name as I, which I explain in my book. So I think the story of Danos, who was supposed to be a king of Egypt, Danos going to Argos, which is Greece, I think that is a story about I being kicked out during the rule of Tutankhamun and having to go into exile in Greece. Remember, at this time, this is like 1320 BC, there was no Greece.
Yeah.
This was just, well, it wouldn't be barren land, there would be people there, but there would be no civilization that we know of. It would be a proto-civilization, Bronze Age sort of civilization in Greece, which would be easy to manipulate and to dominate. Having come from Egypt, who was, you know, the greatest technology and kingdom of the Eastern Mediterranean at that time. And it's quite possible that he might have set up Greece as we know it. We'll see some links to Greece in a minute. It's quite possible that he might have set up something like Sparta, because we know that Sparta was an invading elite who came into southern Greece and dominated the people there and turned them into slaves to the Spartans. So the Helots were just a slave population, a native population who were turned into slaves, and they were dominated by the Spartans because the Spartans had come in from elsewhere. You see, rather like possibly I might have done when he went to Greece. So anyway, that's the background to I. He came running back as soon as he heard that Tutankhamun had died. He came running back and re-established the Aten as the god of Egypt. Didn't last very long though. So this is I, and so we've got. Where do we start? Probably here. This is I. So we've got E. Now, how do you pronounce that? So there are many versions of this pronunciation. Most people say I, because it's just like 3 E's in a row.
Yes.
I. So anyway, it's that's his name, and then this bit is Itef Niter. So Itef, and then the God flag is Niter. So the symbol for God is a flag. Some say it's an axe, because if you go to Minoan Crete, the image for a god in I was going to say Cyprus, in Crete, is an axe. So some people say that this is an axe, but if you look at the axes in Minoan Crete, they're not operational. They're not usable axes. They are images of axes. So maybe they're even images of flags. We don't know. So it's either a flag or an axe. In Rome, it became an axe. So if you look at a fasces, from which we derive the word fascist, when people bandy this word around without knowing what it means. A fascist is the authority under which people are controlled. And in Rome, it was an axe surrounded by 12 rods, bound with red tape. Now, the 12 rods are the 12 tribes of Israel. So we have a definite link back to Israel and Egypt in the fasces of Rome. So when Rome went anywhere, they carried the fasces with them as a symbol of the authority of Rome. And in the center of the 12 rods was an axe. And quite obviously, the axe is, as it is here, it's a symbol of the god above. So that's I, and his other name here is Kepa, so Kepa is the beetle again. It's either Kepara or Keperura. The plural in Egyptian is U, so it could be Keperura. The three rods are just being plural, basically. Ra being the symbol of the sun god, but it wouldn't be pronounced Ra because this is Amana, so it would be Keperu Aten, not Ra. And then at the end here we have ear mate, and that name links up with Danas, who went to Argos, who had the same name. Right. So there we go. That's the Amana dynasty. But I was kicked out. This is an alternative version of the genealogy here. Again, we see I just up the top here. We have Nefertiti as being the daughter of I. That's debatable, but that's where I put her. Again, I've got Tutankhamun as being a son of I, because that's more logical than coming from Akhenaten. And here we have Ankhesenamun marrying Spenkara, Tutankhamun, and then I. So it was, this is Ankhesenamun. Note these were all cone heads. So, you know, from Indiana Jones, you know, all of the South American royalty were cone heads. What was that? Something in the crystal skull, if you remember that one. Right. There are many cone heads if you go to Central South America. But the Amana dynasty were also cone heads. Right. Yeah. So, and we think they were physically different as well. If you look at the mummy of Tutankhamun, it's not this pronounced, but Tutankhamun is a slight cone head. He's got a slight bulge on the back of his head. But Ankhesenamun, quite obviously, if this is drawn from or sculpted from life, she was very pronounced as a cone head. That's so interesting. Yeah. So there was something special about these dynasties. Yeah. They were cone heads and they were ginger. We'll see in a minute as well. They were ginger. So they were different from the rest of the population, quite possibly.
Where is this? Sorry, Ralph. Where is this from, Ralph? Is this a sculpture or just a drawing, or?
This is a bust. Yeah, it's a sculpture. Yes. Yeah.
Where's that bust from?
It's from the Egyptian Museum.
Yes, from
from the Cairo Museum.
Yeah.
There are a few of them, and also they wore hats like this. If you look at Nefertiti when she wears the war hat and things of that nature, the hat looks like this skull. So you have to, because we don't have an image of Nefertiti with just her hair showing. What does this one have? You see she's wearing the hat, but the hat has the same bulge as the skull. So were these bulbous hats just covering up her conehead skull? I don't know. We don't have an image of Nefertiti without a hat on. So they may have been physically, genetically slightly different to the rest of the population. What's happened to the cone heads, I don't really know, because you don't really see cone heads in the modern population. No, not that I've seen. Unless someone could show me some images of cone heads floating around. So I don't quite know what has happened to all of these cone heads from history. But they certainly did have them. I mean, if you look at the skulls from Central South America, they are pronounced cone heads with the actual skulls. Not just sculptures, but the actual original skull. And interestingly, they don't have the same suture lines in the top of the skull either.
This is so fascinating.
Yeah, they're missing one of the suture lines that we normally have in our skull.
And that's too short a time period for this to evolve out of, I imagine.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of thousand years, you're not going to get a totally different shape ahead, you know. This is really perplexing, this.
Yeah, I've not been too deeply into this, but it's yeah, I'm sure other people have been looking at this in much more detail, but I looked at it because there it is. You know, the Amarna dynasty had these. Well, Akhenaten had the strange shape head as well, as we know. But all of the sculptures from Amarna are slightly odd, slightly different.
Something to look into there. Yeah.
This is her cartouche. This is her later cartouche. So this is the Ankh. The Ankh is the Egyptian cross. Ankhes En. The water glyph is N. So Ankhessen, and then this is the god name Amu. So Imu, or Amen, if you want to pronounce it as Amen. That's how it used to be pronounced before someone changed it into Amun instead. So that's Ankhessen Amun. That's her cartouche. Yeah. And yes, we've seen that already. That's the alternate. So Akhenaten had at least 3 wives that we know of. So Akhenaten married Nefertiti, Ipi, and then Kia. When I was talking about Adam and Eve being Akhenaten and Nefertiti, is not Nefertiti, it's Kia. So Eve is not her name. She's is something that sounds like Kia in the Hebrew. We've got Eve via the Greek, so it's a bastardized version of the Hebrew. Her original name is something like Kia. It sounds very close to Kia. So I think Adam and Eve is actually Akhenaten and Kia. Kia was known as his favorite wife, not Nefertiti. She was the more powerful, of course, whereas Kia was his favorite. She was known as the little monkey. So she was obviously a bundle of fun.
Yeah, very good. She would have been related as well, then I imagine.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Although we don't have
genealogy.
We don't have her ancestry, so we don't know where she came from. But she was possibly not a conehead, because they had a kiosk to Kia, just a little shrine, as it were, to Kia, out in one of the gardens at Amarna, and it had Kia in it. But then the kiosk was taken over by Ankhessen, and they redrew the head to have a conehead on the back of it. So they had to elongate the skull in the sculpture. So it seems likely that Kia didn't have a conehead, and then they amended it to make it look like the daughter of Akhenaten. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But this is the family that was kicked out, because I disappears from the record very quickly, 4 years or something, and he's kicked out of Egypt. Now, in classical Egyptian history, there is no explanation. He just disappears. Presumed dead, whatever. But this is where Scotti Chronicon takes over the story. Both Scotti Chronicon and the Labor Gabala from Ireland, which is 6th century, so we're going back quite a long way here. Wow. They both have this story of these people coming out of Egypt. And apparently they were given 50 ships or something of that nature, and politely told to go. Otherwise, something worse could happen. So again, this was a controlled exodus. This wasn't a panicked exodus. They were allowed to make arrangements, take their belongings, take their people, their courtiers, their friends and families, and board the ships and go. So they might have had 6 months or more to arrange all of this. And they boarded their 50 ships and they sailed to the west. And so this would have been 1300 odd BC. Did they have the technology? Yeah, of course they did. Yeah. This is the this goes back even further. This is the Giza boat. So this is like 4,500 years old. This boat.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
No, sorry.
What's this boat famous for?
Yeah, sorry. Say again.
What's this boat famous for? Was this for moving like the bricks down the Nile, for building pyramids, kind of stuff?
No, this is a ceremonial boat for transporting the pharaoh and the image of the god that was never used. So this one was packed away and buried underneath the pyramid on the south side of the Great Pyramid. So there are 2 boat trenches down there, and disassembled, they packed these 2 boats into these trenches, and I think they were never used. They were brand new. But it gives you an idea of the technology they had at this time. This is Old Kingdom.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is a long time ago, and yeah, this technology is good enough to go across the Mediterranean. Put it that way. This is a Nile cruiser, of course. What they used to do is they used to put fabric along this top of the these side planks. I'm trying to remember what they call it, but anyway, they put some fabric along the top to stop the waves coming over the top, to make it more seaworthy if you're going across the Mediterranean. But this is a perfectly seaworthy boat if you wanted to amend it slightly. We know they had boats that were capable, because this is the Olaroon shipwreck. This is just off the coast of Turkey, just outside Bodrum. And this is in the museum at Bodrum. If you go to Bodrum, it's in the castle at Bodrum, so don't miss it out. It's there. It's well worth going to have a look. And this ship is of the right era. We know it's the right era because they had a finger ring, a gold ring, of Nefertiti on board. So this ship is of the right era. It's 1300 odd BC. And this is what it would have looked like, a trading vessel. And you can see they've put these netting up on the side to stop the waves coming over the top, make it slightly more seaworthy. But this is interesting, this ship, because they say it was a trading vessel carrying all sorts of goods around the Mediterranean. I don't think so. I think this ship was carrying all of the equipment you would need to set up a new civilization in a new land. If you're going on an exodus, you need to take all the equipment you need to survive for the next 5 years, 10 years in a new land. So you need everything that you would normally need to make a civilization. And this ship had everything. So it has ingots down here, copper ingots. It's got glass ingots. It has all sorts of luxury products. It has hooks. It has fish, like fish hooks. It has ostrich eggs. It has all sorts of things that you would normally need in order to survive in a new land. So it has things like this. The top one here is ingots of copper. And then these ones here are ingots of glass. That to me is not trade, because you don't make much money out of selling a glass ingot. You make the money out of making a goblet and selling the goblet. But if you wanted to trade glass, you would take the finished product from a place like Egypt, which knew how to make these very high-tech products. Exporting raw material is not profitable. Why bother doing that? However, if you're going to a new land to set up a new civilization, if you are Pharaoh I on his way because you've been kicked out of Egypt to set up a new civilization, you would need ingots of glass. These are the raw materials you would need for your new civilization. So I think that's what this ship was doing, and this was just off the coast of Greece. Of course, Pharaoh I went to Greece before he went westwards towards Spain and Ireland. Again, this is all the stuff they found on this boat. This is the Laroon shipwreck, and you've got gold here. Gold being used as money. They used to chop up pieces of gold and just use it as money. They didn't have any coinage. There was no such thing as coinage. Gold goblets, all sorts of things here. Lots of these necklaces. Have a look at this, because we find this in Ireland as well, these necklaces. These are faience necklaces. Faience is a type of glass. So these are man-made, these necklaces. And they're typical of Egypt. That's where they come from.
Wow, yeah.
And they were supposed to have landed in Spain. So they were kicked out of Egypt. They sailed to the west, and apparently they landed here, which is the Ebro Peninsula. And Ebro, this is the river Ebro. Ebro is the name of the son of Queen Scota.
Right.
Again, they say this is a back formation, that, they've named the sun after the river, but perhaps the river is named after the sun.
I see.
The interesting thing here is that they managed to find the only other place in the whole of the Mediterranean basin where we have a delta. So they came from the Nile Delta, and they went to the Ebro Delta. And I don't know of any other delta regions in the Mediterranean. So the farmers in the delta of Egypt would have known exactly how to farm this area here, because this is a delta region. It looks like a ghostly apparition on this satellite.
Yeah, it does.
Video, but anyway, that is, if we look at it in a map, there it is. Delta de Ibra. It's a flat delta region, same as northern Egypt is. Well worth visiting. It's a nice place. Amposta's quite a nice town. So I was there for about 4 days, pottering around, having a look at it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
looking for some Egyptian connections when you were there. Was that?
Yeah. But the problem is now we run off the end of history and we start looking at mythology, because this would be a new people in a new land with limited resources, who could not build pyramids and temples and things of this nature that are going to last for thousands of years. And so there's going to be very little trace of them in these lands. And that's why we end up with mythology and not with, although we do have some hard artifacts, we'll have a look at that in a minute. But it's much harder for them to leave a trace in the land than an established civilization can. Because apparently they weren't in the Ebro Delta very long, because they were attacked. Every day they were attacked by the locals, and although they won every battle, they always lost a few people. And they didn't have any people to lose. I mean, if you think about it, 50 ships, you're only talking a maximum of about 1,000 people. We're not talking about a very big civilization here. And so it seems likely that they went, this is the Ebro here, they went initially to the Balearics, because the Balearics were uninhabited. So that was much more secure. So Balearics are the popular resort towns of, we've got Minorca and Mallorca. People go there on holiday all the time. And they never go to see the old ruins there. There are quite a number of old ruins there that, the tourists never go to. And the first one, of course, is the Nevitas.
Right.
These are upturned boat tombs.
Right.
Now, if you're escaping by boat and you want shelter, the first thing you're going to do is bring a boat ashore, cut it in half, turn it upside down, and you've got some shelter.
Voila.
And yes, indeed. And so maybe that became symbolic of the people, that they were connected to boats because that's how they got there. And so they made their tombs into boat tombs.
Do you have a date for these?
These are Bronze Age, so they're the right sort of era. We don't have exact dates for them, but they are Bronze Age. Of course, 1300 BC, we are in the Bronze Age. And this is on Minorca. Rudimentary, but nevertheless, quite robust. It's lasted thousands of years now.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, of course, we have the same in Ireland. So this is the Dingle Peninsula in southern Ireland. And the interesting thing is not only the same shape, it's that the frontage is the same size. So they're using the same, I think they were using Egyptian royal cubits. It has the same.
Package holidays and flight-only bookings all in one place. Sign in to MyJet2 and get exclusive offers in the app. Easy to find flights and holidays. Save your details so it's even easier and quicker to book. Shortlist your favourites with MyJet2. Countdown to your getaway. Easy access to everything you need all in one place. Seats, meals, bags, and more to your booking. Group getaway. Access shared bookings with ease. Upload and view useful documents. Keep everything handy, even when offline. Prepare for your trip with our handy holiday checklist and make changes easily. Fly paper-free. Check in and save your boarding passes to your phone's digital wallet. All in one easy-to-use app. Download now.
Bringing a love letter to life, the story of a friendship that changed over time. The story begins with a handwritten letter. Hey Meta, start recording. You crossed my mind today while reading my old journals, as it astutely captured the story of our teenage rebellion. Hey Meta, what does this word mean in English?
Letter means the being or the essence in English.
I'm aware people change over time, but I find that their essence remains. I used to dream for both of us, and now I have to realize these dreams all by myself, because it was never yours to begin with. Take good care of yourself, old friend.
It has the same width too. Now this is said to be 6th century AD. But there is no evidence for 6th century AD. They say it's 6th century AD because the back window seems to have an arch, a Roman-type arch on it. But if you look at that lintel on the back window, I don't have a picture here, it's been recarved in later years. And I think it's been recarved to make it look like a Roman arch because it's made the lintel dangerously thin. It would have not been like that originally. So if we take that window out of this, there is no definite age for this. It could easily be something like Bronze Age, because these stones here will last. These are very hard. You don't even have to quarry these. They come out in nice little slabs anyway. Some sort of gritstone, but it's very tough. It's going to last an awful long time. And the corbelling at the top is exactly the same as these.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so there are some similarities. So we're looking at similarities now between where these people came from, which we know was this, Spanish-type region, and where they eventually went to several generations later, which is Ireland and Scotland. And what they were doing on Minorca especially is they were making lots